Hi there. So glad that you, my friends, can join me. We've got Matt and Joseph, top agents. Matt is the top agent in Connecticut as the state, as he told me, it's a small state and he covers the whole thing. And then Joseph from Rhode Island. Super excited to have both of y'all. Thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for
Matt, you're the
having us.
Matt, you're the number one agent in Connecticut. I never heard that before.
Gotta
I didn't
stick
say he
with
was
what
the
you
number one
got.
agent in Connecticut. I said he was a number one agent in
No, he is the
Connecticut.
number
It's a
one.
small
I'm just
state.
kidding. It's his tagline. I'm just busting him.
Are you number one in Connecticut?
Yes.
Oh, you're number one in Connecticut. I feel honored.
Thank you.
That's phenomenal.
And
Joseph,
Mr. Fitzpatrick is the number one agent in Newport, in Rhode Island, actually. Number one team. He's just being shy.
That's right.
That is true, Matt. You're a good guy. Anyway, Jennifer.
Awesome. Well, I've got two of the best of the best of the best. So I'm super excited to have you guys here and talking about real estate and what the general public needs to know in order to best situate themselves as a buyer and seller all over globally. So quickly, funny story. Who's got the funniest real estate story?
Funniest real estate story?
Or scary, or most realistic?
Everything bad has happened to you. You go first.
My first year in business, I was thinking back when you posted that question. I've had some unique scenarios. I think the funniest story is that I did 95 transactions in 1 year without an assistant. So I think Joe would find that really funny.
Holy cow.
I've never done, I since now have an assistant, but in terms of funny stories, I couldn't think of just one. I remember showing my first year in business. I just got my license, and Connecticut is a small state, and I thought it could cover the entire state. And I ended up with a client an hour and a half away, which is from tip to tip. Like, you can't drive more than an hour and a half and still be in the state. And I was so excited, had my first client, and every Saturday there were 20 houses they wanted to go see at a pretty low price point. And I was driving an hour and a half, showing them 20 houses. Didn't like any of them. Driving back an hour and a half. This went on for a month, and I finally got we get to the final walkthrough. I'll keep it real brief. And we walk in. I'm so excited. Probably one of my first commission checks. And I look around, and all the trim is chewed up. It was a vacant house, and before the closing, a squirrel got in and ate all the trim around the window. The whole house was destroyed, and sadly, his life ended in the master bedroom.
So then you end up with a dead squirrel in the master bedroom? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, yeah. And the house needed all new trim everywhere, moldings, you name it. So I had to figure out on the fly how to negotiate a final walkthrough issue challenge. So there's my funny story.
Wow. Did you end up obviously you ended up getting it negotiated?
I did. And they were such great clients. They actually up and left to Canada a few years later.
Oh, wow. Wow. But you got that squirrel, and I don't even know
We did. So, you got to put those chimney caps on.
Yeah, there you go. What about you, Joe? Do you have any good ones for us?
Yeah. I mean, all the bad things that happened to me. I remember when I first got into real estate, the first 5 or 6 years, I did a lot of rentals. We have a college here, Salve Regina, and I was showing a multi-family. And, I rang the doorbell, knocked the door, went in, knocked on the door again, and just out of habit was constantly saying, hello, hello, knocking on doors, didn't hear anything. I had some students with me. I was showing the house. Anyway, I knock on this door, still nothing. I open the door, and there's this young lady completely stark naked, brushing her hair. Still didn't hear me. Her music was blasting. And I just kind of took 2 steps back, closed the door, showed the rest of the house, and just left and never mentioned it again. But yeah, just completely naked, brushing her hair. Just ignored me.
It's better than a dead squirrel chewing the wood.
So that's what gives her some good feedback, Joe. Well, maybe if you worked out a little bit more.
Yeah, seriously. I don't know. I do have one other one, Jennifer, very quickly. I had a lady that I showed 20 houses to back in 2001, 2002. And she ended up buying it for sale by owner and wrote me a very nice letter apologizing for wasting my time and saying, when I list this house, I promise I'll sell it with you. And I was like, yeah, okay, great, thanks. And then fast forward 21 years later, she came into the office 3 months ago, and she literally said, it's Joe Fitzpatrick here, has never reached out to me once since, and lives in my town.
Wow.
And she said, yeah, well, I told him that I promised when I sold my house that I'd use him. My husband passed away. I'm moving to Connecticut and I want to list my house with him. And I was like, that's amazing. 21 years
21
later.
years later,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a woman of her word. Holy
That is true.
cow.
Indeed.
We all need those kind of people in our lives that like reemerge and just pop back up and never forget you ever.
Absolutely.
That's phenomenal. Well, that's good though. That's a good story. So did you sell her house?
Yeah, we listed it and sold it. She was fantastic, and it was a great transaction. Yeah.
Oh, that's a very good story. I had very similar stories. One of my crazy ones is actually I had a client that was a childhood friend of mine that had gotten divorced, and she had hired me in as the agent, but I could not tell her husband that she was the one that hired me, because if he knew that she hired me, then he wouldn't want to use me, right? So I come into a meeting that he wasn't aware of, that I had not seen him since I was in middle school, that I was trying to explain why I was there and that I was a real estate agent, and that I had heard through the grapevine that they needed to sell their house, which was the first odd part. And then the second odd part, I did get the listing. We get it under contract. He is mad, divorce situation. Y'all were both young, but have you seen the movie Animal House?
No.
Okay. He's being funny. So just a rager of a party, an Animal House type party, where there is beer upside down, beer cans, beer bottles, cigarette butts put out on the ground. I mean, and I found out on the day of closing when the buyers did the walkthrough. So it was very similar to Matt's story, except for mine was a crazy ex-husband who decided to throw a rager like he was 21 all over again.
That's a tough one.
It bittersweet. They actually had $100,000 in equity in the home, and it did $25,000 worth of damage. I mean, kicked in the microwave, kicked in the stove. I mean, really, really a lot of damage, and it came off of the equity. So it was stupid.
As long as it reduced her bottom line, he probably justified it, even though that makes no sense.
Stupid. People can be stupid. Divorce makes you do stupid things. But anyway, that's for a different podcast. Real estate market. So we're talking about three things that in my opinion, three strong things that everybody needs to fully understand, whether you're buying a home or selling a home. And one of those, you need to know the market conditions, and you need to know what the absorption rate is. So just for the general public, the absorption rate, if everything were to stop and get listed today and everything sells as it is today, when would there be no more inventory? Right? So how much inventory do you currently have available? So very important to understand that for if you're buying a house or if you're selling a house. Is there too much inventory or is there not enough inventory? So what are you guys seeing in this market?
I can go through ours if you like. Matt doesn't even know what absorption rate is, so I'll just skip him altogether.
I'm still reeling that his client bought in Connecticut and I didn't get the referral. So we'll talk about that after.
Okay, so the absorption rate right now looks like we have, we can go back 9 months, 6 months, or 12 months, but our absorption rate is going to be right around 1.3 to 1.5. We've got a 77% probability of selling. And essentially what that means is if we got no more listings starting today going forward, we would be completely out of inventory in 1.3 months.
Right. So in that case, it's definitely a seller's market.
It's definitely a seller's market. There's absolutely no question.
And then to you, what does that mean to a buyer?
Well, what it means to a buyer is that, obviously coupled with the interest rates and the low inventory, we're getting a lot of buyer fatigue. What we're mostly focusing on right now is trying to help buyers understand how to deal with the hand that they're dealt, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're a certain type of buyer, here's some of the reasons that we think that you should potentially be patient. So if I have first-time home buyers putting down 5% that just can't compete with cash deals, what we're doing to avoid buyer fatigue at this point is we're encouraging them not to look at houses till we have a minimum of 7 DOM or there's been at least one open house. Mm-hmm. So if you're a buyer right now and you're getting frustrated, there are ways, and we have strategies to make non-cash buyers as competitive as possible with cash buyers. Not everybody's just going to have cash no contingency buyers. So we have to explain to them that we may not be able to compete directly with them, but we can certainly make you as attractive as possible. And that's by getting them as pre-approved as possible. We've got mortgage originators now who are literally one step away. As soon as they get an address and a signed purchase and sales agreement, I'm getting approvals within 24 hours. So it also gives people confidence to waive some mortgage contingencies. I'm obviously not a huge fan of waiving contingencies, but if it's necessary and if they know they're getting the loan, it is something that we're looking at right now. But what we're basically doing right now is sitting down, trying to educate people on how not to get fatigue and how to make their offer as attractive as possible without putting them in an uncomfortable position.
I think that is excellent advice. And what about you, Mr. Number One in Connecticut?
So to put things into perspective, for 10 years in Connecticut, we worked in an environment where the absorption rate was 6 months. Anytime I sat down with the seller, they would always ask me, how long could my house be on the market? And, we were using that 6 month mark as kind of an average. Right now, and for the past 2 years, we've been sub 1 month. So we're, 0.7, 0.8, and it's only decreasing because we have such limited inventory and we just have too many buyers for not enough houses. So that's where we are on the absorption rate.
Yeah. Is there any advice that you would give your buyer? Like, what does that mean? Anything other than Joseph said, because he did hit the
notes. He's my mentor, so I look up to him. And I would echo everything he said. The one thing that I'm talking to buyers with is just expanding their search a little bit. I know you wanted to be in this one town for this particular school district, but hey, there's another town that you could be maybe 10 extra minutes away from work or downtown. And just give it a shot. Let's go look at a few houses. Let's go drive around. And we're getting deals done because not every town in Connecticut is getting, the same amount of activity. So there are opportunities, and I'm a big fan. If you swing and miss in the first weekend, my buyers will be there next weekend.
Yep.
And that's happening. So we're, last few buyer deals I put together, they didn't really have to go over asking price. But we were strategic. We recognized that, this was a fair deal. We made a strong offer. We're increasing our escrow amount. I think, maybe a lot of people on this call, and myself included, for years, we were conditioned in Connecticut. You put 1% down with the accepted offer, and then after the inspections, and they're 9%. Well, let's put 10% down now if you accept their offer. And in the eyes of the seller, it just, as they're comparing all the offers, it just adds your level of commitment and sincerity to the deal. So, little things like that.
No, I think that is an excellent point. And that was one of the things I was going to say is I'm telling my buyers, let's extend your search. And maybe there's something we have to give up, right? Maybe if it needs a fence, you want a fence. And if you think a fence is mandatory, maybe we give up the fence and find another way to get you the fence. Or, there are other methods. And I think Joseph is right too. I think knowing your local lenders and maximizing on the everything that they offer, right, that they're providing to help you. But bottom line, I think having the best agent on your side that can, I think both of you hit on it, can get you in the best position so that you're educated, you've got the money, you've got the pre-approval letter, you've got everything. So when the right house comes, you can pounce on it with as much money down as you possibly can. I agree with you too, Matt. That was very well said. Good job. See, I didn't even have to practice. So the second thing I think is really important for everybody to fully understand before you buy or sell is what is the median value in your area? How has that changed in the past year? And then how does that affect your buyers or sellers?
Sure. I'll kick this one off. So in the town that I do most of my business in, Trumbull, the median home sale in March was 505, which was actually 500, which was down 5,000 from 505 last year. But I expanded it out to cover Fairfield County, which is the larger market that I cover. And there's 19 towns that we track. 13 of them, the median sales price is up as compared to last year, and 16 of them are down. So we have a clear divide. Some towns are still performing and increasing where others are, decreasing. So it's understanding. And, I've got on my other screen to the left here, I've got 19 offers that came in on a listing over the weekend. And it's amazing how many offers still come in at asking price or under. Yeah. Where we have others that are 80,000 above. And then you line it up with, maybe the agent isn't from the area, or they're just not really advising their buyers properly. It's like, to your point, to the question, actually understanding it. Are you still in an increasing market, or is it decreasing? You got to study the data. And not only do you have to study the data, you have to study the silent inventory, because those numbers I just gave you for March, that really represents deals that were done in December and January, right? So it's seasonal. So you have to be in tune with what your listings are selling for and what your colleagues' listings are selling for, because that's going to be the new data set next quarter.
Very well said. Smart man. I can see why you're number one in Connecticut. What are you seeing down there in Rhode Island?
The pressure is mounting up this year, so I don't know.
Matt, this is like your dream call here. She's like just throwing your tagline out there.
To be clear, you're the one who told me it was this tagline. So
I'm sure my dad, who's listening, is real happy about this.
Hey, my mom's watching, so there's at least two.
I stole that from you.
Anyway, our median sales price is $395,000, which is up 2.6%. 557 sales, which is down almost 25%. So, just from talking to other team leaders around the country, all of America, I'm hearing consistently 10, 15, 20, 25, or in this case, almost even as close to 30% down on the sales over the last year. And that's okay, because in markets like this, we're after market share. We're not. We don't really focus on individual units sold. We focus on market share, and with the low inventory out there and less that's out there, you got to make your own. I always say to the agents, like, there's no inventory. You got to make your own inventory. Everybody's heard that before. It's not a secret with sellers in this market. You just got to pay on the phones. You got to get them. It's not that you don't have enough. You don't have a good enough conversion rate. You're just not giving yourself enough opportunities to convert enough. That's basically the message that I always get out to people in a market like this. So we're down 23%, Jennifer. I'm not sure you'll find too many places worse off than that, but I'm sure they're out there. But I am consistently hearing 10, 15, even 20%.
Yeah, on the sales, but on your price. Didn't you say they had gone up 2% or 3%?
They've gone up 2%, but just because they have to. I mean, you can talk about anything you want, but at the end of the day, price is determined by supply and demand. I mean, it doesn't matter what you're talking about, right?
Right. Simple.
There's no inventory, so how can the price possibly go down? You can talk about interest rates and purchasing power, but at the end of the day, if there's no inventory, then there's no price. There's a direct correlation between inventory and price that's never changed and never will.
Right. That's right. So that is a good point. So in our area, our average sales price are $425, which has gone up 9% from last year to date. But it was interesting that you mentioned the sales, because then I had to go look at our sales, and our sales are down 13%. Funny enough, our team's personal sales have gone up, but as an area as a whole, our sales have gone down, prices have gone up.
Yeah.
So I think it's super important to understand too, if the prices are continuing to rise. So both of you are seeing continual rising of the prices of homes?
Yeah, well, yes and no. I mean, it's hard to argue that we're not in a declining market, simply in the sense that if you see a solid 7 or 8 year increase with no exceptions that hit a peak around May or June of 2022, it's a declining market in the sense that we're not getting, this is for all homes in all locations, maybe not this particular medium one that I just referenced, but for the most part, it may be a very, very, very slight decline, but we are on the other side of that curve. So there's no question that it's a seller's market. There's no question it's an amazing time to be a seller. But there are scenarios, Jennifer, where it can be a good time, a good market to sell, and a good time to buy. Those scenarios can happen. They can coexist. So it's a good time to be a seller. Yes, we are on the other side of the peak, and therefore are by definition in a declining market. Will your house be worth less 12 months from now than it is today? In my opinion, yeah, it will. So there are reasons and incentives for sellers to buy now. There's always incentives for buyers to buy now, because now, by definition, is better than tomorrow, because the sooner you invest in real estate, the better off you are, and there's no exceptions. And as long as you're like a buy and hold. Obviously, if you do a short-term flip, you got to look at the market a little closer. But everybody who's bought real estate at any point in their life, as an investor or even for an owner occupant, the sooner the better is always the answer. Whatever your objection is, we can work around it.
That's it. Well, because you also know what's happening now. The rest are just predictions. We know what's happening now, and we can advise you to get the most money, right? If you're selling, as possible.
As long as you can afford it today, go for it. You got 2-1 buy down programs. You've got other incentives. We have sellers now willing to give concessions and so on. But the bottom line is, if you can afford it today, you buy it today. That's been my advice for 26 years. It's never changed, and it never will.
Yeah.
There's not one person who bought 26 years ago that regrets it. Like, your real estate's worth 300% what it was then.
Oh,
so start the clock. The only regret I ever hear is that they didn't start sooner. That's the only regret I ever hear.
That's right. I would agree with you. I 100% agree with you. Then I think the third part, which we've kind of briefly talked about, is interest rates. And obviously I think they're stabilizing a little bit now, but they've gone up significantly since last year. And what are your opinions on what's going to happen with it? One, and hey, Robert Little, I love Robert. What's going to happen in the future, and also how does that affect today, your buyers or sellers today?
I think that it actually ties into what Joe said. I think the focus for many buyers was interest rates. They just assumed that when the rates went up, the prices were going to come down. There wasn't enough emphasis on, hey, if the inventory stays low and gets even lower, the interest rate could be 40. It doesn't matter. There are just people need a house, and it just takes a couple to drive the price or sustain the price. And in our numbers, we're ranging from being down 25 to 47% in inventory in certain towns. So the correlation there just didn't line up. The issue I'm having with interest rates is, yes, it's on the buy side, but it's also on the sell side, because what happened in Connecticut is we have a lot of people that would sell here and then move to warmer climates. Mm-hmm. And the values in those warmer climates went up. That would be you. Your values went up quite a bit, and the interest rates went up. So they're sitting in their house that's either clear and free, mm-hmm. or they refinanced and they're at 2.65%. They don't need the house. So, that's the conversation I had this morning with a potential seller is, you've got to see if this house is going to serve its purpose in 5 years. Okay, maybe you stay here. But if you don't see yourself living here in a year or two, then we really have to put a plan to get you out of it and to capitalize on where we are. So, overall, the interest rates have certainly impacted buyers. It's brought them down in, purchasing power, but it's really hurt the sellers a little bit more in terms of being able to get out and want to do something. Other than that, they're just freezing. And that's why we're seeing inventories at such low levels is, hey, we're just going to stay in our house right now. Let this kind of carry on a little bit.
Well, I agree with you. And then on the selling side, a lot of them are saying, well, what do I do? They need to buy, and they need an interest rate. The interest rates affect what they buy and how they buy and what they can afford to buy. So it comes back to affect them.
So if the news, which is kind of starting, if the news catches on and says prices in Florida and North Carolina and South Carolina are just down, then people in Connecticut, New York, Rhode Island, they're going to sell their house and they're going to move to warmer climates. So we're all kind of, working together here.
That's exactly right. That's right. Rich, very good advice. What about you, Joe? What are you seeing?
Oh, sorry, I forgot what the question was.
What about interest rates on the rise, and
yes.
How does that affect your buyers and sellers, and what you think the interest rates are going to do?
Yeah. So the Matt had referenced sellers who are like, well, I can't sell because I'm in like a 3% interest. If I downsize from my daddy's on the phone. Sorry, I asked her not to come in for 15 minutes. I couldn't even get 15 minutes. So when buyers like, hey, I have $1 million home, I'm going to downsize, mm-hmm. and by the time I pay the extra interest rate, I'm basically paying the same for the smaller house. But you got to think long on that. The interest rates are going to change. It's a temporary thing. You can refinance. Plus, your maintenance cost on the smaller home is less. Your taxes are less. The utilities are less. You just have to point out sometimes that it's not an even swap here. The increased interest rates and at some point the impracticality of their house, which is whatever reason they're primarily looking to sell, is going to supersede their need to kind of match the dollar for
Right.
dollar, or they're up there, the seller objection that we're getting. And that's what I keep pointing out to them. At some point, there's a reason why you want to sell this house.
That's right.
You bought it when you were single, and then you started dating your wife, and then you got married, and then you had 3 kids, and you got 2 dogs, and whatever
Yeah.
else you got running around here. This house just doesn't work anymore,
Yeah.
or downsizing obviously is the opposite.
For me, they're usually moving here from one of I'll say y'all's location, because they're grandchildren. Usually people move here because warm climates, cheaper taxes, and then my other one is always for family. Usually grandchildren live somewhere near me, and that's why they're coming.
You get all the referrals, right, Jennifer? That's what I heard.
I get a lot of referrals. I do. I was lucky enough to have closed 67 of them last year, and I feel very honored and privileged. And thank you.
That's excellent.
That's incredible.
It is. We're a very actually a small area. It does not sound as small as Connecticut. However, and there's a lot of realtors here, but yeah, once you get a good reputation and you get in there, I love it. I'm very thankful. And I'm born and raised here, and it's hard to find anybody born and raised here. So yeah, there's a couple of unique. I'm trying to go through everybody saying hey. Yeah, we've got a lot of the same people keep saying hey, but anyway, yeah, and you guys get a lot of referrals. Of course you do.
Yeah,
And
that's why I stand around handing stuff out for 3 or 4 hours every afternoon.
If you ever go to a Remax event, Joe's square card will be on the table before you even sit down.
I think that's good. So are you guys going to the luxury event in wherever it is?
New Orleans, yeah, I'm speaking at it. I'm doing one of my team sessions. I'll be presenting there with Marielle from my team. So we're excited to head down there in June. Are you going to go?
Yes, I will be there. I was there last
Excellent.
year. I loved it. I will be there again this year. What about you, Matt?
I will not, but likely going to be at Elite Retreat later this year.
Okay, good. Were you there last year? Were you in California?
No. I'm coming out of having 3 kids. Well, my wife had 3 kids in 5 years, so it's not much travel going on here.
3 kids in 5 years. So your oldest one is 5?
Like 5, yeah.
I'm
I've got to be doing this for a lot longer than everybody here. So
you are a baby.
Matt, unless you're breastfeeding, you can go. What's the problem?
I got to support. Come on.
That's right. So is everybody sleeping through the night? What's the youngest age?
Yeah, so the youngest is turning a year, and then everyone's sleeping. I start my day at 5, so I beat them up by about an hour and a half to 2 hours. So if we could get to 6:30, we're doing good.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is huge. I think Jared James at one of the last conferences I went through, that's what he said is just he was talking about his divorce and separation and making time for his family and how work is still important, but he just gets up earlier to get work done. So when his kids wake up, he can spend that time with them.
Yeah.
Which is kind of the same thing you just said, Matt.
Yeah.
Yes, and I will. I plan to be at Elite Retreat. I have been 2 years in a row, and it was really good. And I do plan to be at Luxury. It's a little bit harder the more conferences you try to fit in there to get them all done. But I hope I at least get to see Joseph at Luxury, and Matt. Hopefully, you will get to catch up at Elite. Are they the only 2 that you guys have in the schedule this year on your conference?
The team's event in December as well. I usually go to that.
Yeah, I went last year was my first year at that, and that was really fun. I think I had a little too much fun at that, and very good networking.
That's all right. Nothing wrong with that. As long as you're working for your referrals, Jennifer, they're all worth it.
And that is a great point. I love my referrals. I honor them and treasure them, and feel like I work really hard for them, as you 2 do. And I feel like, why wouldn't you give me the referral when it's clear that I'm the best in the area?
I agree.
Right?
Agreed.
Oh, it's the same thing as you guys. So, yes. So just in wrapping up, everybody wants referrals. Yes. In wrapping up, please send your Connecticut referrals to Matt. Send your Rhode Island ones to Joseph. And if anybody in the coast of North Carolina, specifically the Wilmington area. So I am not in the Outer Banks. I'm about 5 hours from the Outer Banks. The Outer Banks is not me. I am about an hour north of Myrtle Beach. So I'm almost on the North Carolina, South Carolina border.
Very nice.
Excellent. I
Awesome.
look forward to sending you a referral soon.
I look
It
forward
sounds
to
like a
that.
lovely place to be. So
Yes.
Come visit.
yeah,
I will. What's the weather like where you're at now?
it was beautiful this weekend, but it's overcast and rainy today. It was
Yeah,
like 80 degrees over the weekend.
Just cleared up here. It's probably in the 60s.
I'm looking to see what the temperature is because, to be clear, I haven't been outside today. So it's 73 right now. It's a little bit chillier today, but yesterday it was 83. We were going to go on the boat yesterday. So
How do you not leave your house in an entire day? How does that work?
So I've been in the office all day, and how does that work? I have so exciting news. My daughter is pregnant. Super excited. She is also my everything with my team, right? She like operations manager. Whatever title you want to put on her, she does it all. Been a little bit harder since she's been pregnant. So we have 3 new admin, and she was out today because she fell down the stairs yesterday. She is okay. Baby is okay, but she has a sprained ankle, was in ER until 4:30.
Oh.
So I've been in here. I've had to be in here
Oh, wow.
to train.
This
train admin.
first grandchild?
Yes, I'm so
Very
Congratulations.
exciting. That's awesome.
She's having a
That's
little
really
girl.
exciting.
Yes.
That's awesome. I got a little bit of time before that, but I'm excited about it too.
Well, you're still helping with homework, so I am. My oldest is a senior in college, and then that's my youngest, and then my oldest is pregnant with babies. So
Awesome.
Lovely.
yeah, but stress on the team a little bit, trying to figure out how I'm going to do it without her. You start realizing how much I truly depend on her for everything. So I've just been in here plugging away.
Well, good for you. You got to get it done. Go
Gotta
get it.
done. It's always got to get done, right? But anyway, thank you guys. I appreciate your time so much.
Thanks,
Awesome.
Jennifer.
You're
Thanks,
welcome.
Jennifer.
And
This is great.
yeah, Matt, I will be sending you a referral to Connecticut. I've got some coming to you in Rhode Island, and I will see you in June and look forward to you in October.
All right.
Awesome.
Matt, see you next week.
All right. We'll see you. Take care.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.